Hello, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sophie. I work as the Advice Manager, and a big welcome to our Conversations with Students' Union Advice series. This is a series where we chat about the kind of issues students might face during their time at university, and more importantly, what support is out there. So today we're talking all things housing and student rights, which we know can be a huge source of stress for students. We're really pleased to be joined by Caitlin from Shelter Cymru, as well as our sabbatical officer, Jen. I'll hand it over to you both in terms of introducing yourselves.
Hi, I'm Jen. I'm the Carmarthen campus president.
Hiya, my name's Caitlin Jones. I'm the manager of the Advice Online service at Shelter Cymru. I'm also a housing law caseworker.
So to kick us off, Caitlin, for students who perhaps have not heard of Shelter Cymru before, would you be able to briefly explain who you are, what you do, and the kinds of housing issues that students can come to you about?
Shelter Cymru is a charity. We offer free legal advice and free legal representation specifically around housing and homelessness in Wales. As Advice Online manager, I manage the team, that Advice Online team, and the service. So that service includes about 500 web pages of legal advice. And then, as I mentioned before, I'm also a housing law caseworker. So I have my own caseload of clients who I give legal advice and representation to. The range of advice topics are really broad that we offer. It could be things like rent arrears, housing rights, specifically regarding disrepair. We also can give advice on rental property conditions, including pests and vermin. And we can also give advice on landlord harassment and evictions, as well as homelessness and poverty stigma.
That's great, thank you. It's such a range of advice that you provide. In advice, we often see student queries across sort of a range of issues, some of which you've mentioned too, related to housing, so whether it's cancelling contracts or students that are looking to rent privately for the first time. But a lot of the queries that we do tend to get around are either sort of just before or just as students are entering their tenancy agreement. And I think it's super important that we highlight that issues don't necessarily stop there. Jen, you've done a lot of out and about work with students, discussions with students. What are the sort of issues that they're bringing to the table and the sort of things that you're hearing about from your side?
One of the biggest issues that I think I see, especially throughout the course of living in a new place, is students being able to manage that shared living environment, especially, when they're living with new people that they've never met before.
I think we can all sort of sympathise with that to an extent. I think moving in with people, for the first time, if it's something that you're not quite used to, you've never done before, in terms of what students can do who are maybe navigating that situation. Caitlin, is that something that you see a lot? And if he is, what would be your best advice to students who are maybe going through those challenges?
This is an issue that we see, quite a lot at Shelter Cymru, especially because students have to sign up to accommodation so far in advance of their tenancy starting. So we would advise that the first step is mediation and just trying to talk to your housemates, and utilising things like house meetings can be really helpful to set up shared goals and expectations for your living situation. And we do have a lot more guidance on how to manage any difficult situations and conflict on our web pages. Another main issue we see a lot with students is disrepair, which I think is probably unsurprising. Just to be really clear, students have the right to a safe home as a baseline expectation, and that includes disrepair. This idea that students should have to put up with mold and mice because it's part of the student experience is really damaging. And even if it's only your home for 9 months, it's still your home. So if you're facing this situation, you can go on our website and we have pages and pages of advice on there for anyone needing help and not knowing where to turn.
Another issue we see, if a student has issues with their housing, they're not quite sure kind of what they can do in that situation, who to turn to, or even really what their rights are.
And that's something that we definitely see in our advice work. I think getting that process started can be quite daunting, especially if you're not quite sure what your rights are in the first place. Caitlin, for students that want to make that first step to raise concerns they might have, whether it's mould or heating problems, what would you suggest?
We would say that the first step for anyone facing any kind of housing issue would be just to talk to a landlord. So you need to make sure that you've reported any and all disrepair issues and just try to have a positive, constructive conversation with them about how to move forward. If that doesn't solve the issue, then we would say come to Shelter Cymru, ask for advice for first steps, but it's really important that you try and talk to your landlord first.
Some feedback that we do get from students sometimes is that they worry about reaching out. I think some students even worry that perhaps it will look bad on them or it'll become confrontational. Jen, when you're out and about talking to students, what do you think are some of maybe the biggest obstacles sometimes for students when they're weighing up sort of, whether to reach out or not?
I think definitely we've got students that worry about speaking up and kind of what the impact that might have on their relationship with their landlord, or the impact then that could have on their tenancy. I think especially where there are issues tied to money, students can feel shame about reaching out as well.
That's really interesting. And I think for some students as well, I think if you combine that with how isolating it can feel, I think trying to navigate these issues on their own, it can, as we said, it can be quite daunting. And I think that's why it's really important that we're here today talking about it, to sort of try and lessen that stigma around, reaching out and asking for help. Caitlin, is there anything that you would tell students in terms of reassuring them, students that are perhaps trying to weigh up the pros and cons of reaching out for support?
I would say it's completely normal to have housing issues, and it's not a situation that anyone should be worried or ashamed about. Our service at Shelter Cymru is completely confidential, and just to reassure people a little bit, we would only speak to the landlord if you requested us to, so we wouldn't just go ahead and speak to them. Reaching out will only help you resolve the situation, so we would say by choosing not to reach out, nothing gets resolved, so it is really important to take that first step.
And would you be able to speak a little bit about the practical information that is offered through Shelter Cymru? What can students expect from a support point of view?
Shelter Cymru service revolves entirely around legal advice and legal representation regarding housing and homelessness. So we have a helpline where caseworkers can give initial advice regarding your legal rights and actions to take to solve any issues you're facing. If the problem that you're experiencing is more in depth, you'd be booked into a face-to-face appointment with a caseworker who will give you detailed legal advice about your rights and next steps to solve the problem. And then we would then advise you and guide you in sorting out any issues and potentially carry out actions ourselves as well. We also have a campaign group for private renters. We're currently looking for people privately renting to join our advisory group. This is aiming to help shape our research and campaigning for better rights and better homes for anyone who's privately renting in Wales, and it's a really interesting opportunity for anyone passionate about social justice or who might be looking to understand how charities like Shelter Cymru work.
That's amazing. That sounds like such a great opportunity. We've discussed a lot sort of in the lead up to this around the Shelter Cymru website and some of the amazing resources that are available. Would you be able to sort of talk us through some of the resources that are available on Shelter Cymru's website?
Website has about 500 pages of legal advice. The website is always growing, always changing as the law and the advice changes, but we have a specific section on the website which gives tailored advice to young people, and it's got specific student pages within that section as well. So there's different interactive maps in there, and they show different support services available in your area. It's got things like housing checklists available to help students with setting up their first home, or if you're leaving a tenancy. And we've also got information on managing relationships with housemates and in-depth advice.
Thank you so much for everybody's time today and sharing some really helpful information to our students. Jen, I don't know if we want to share maybe your biggest takeaway from this, but I think from my side, it's just knowing the amount of support and information that is out there, especially the web pages that you've mentioned that are tailored to students. I think sometimes we can forget that experience can look a little bit different, and so it's important to be able to have that tailored support and guidance for students.
Yeah, I think my takeaway is pretty similar, but I also think as well, not feeling shame about asking for help and kind of just taking that first step, whether that's, reaching out with helplines or going online.
Thank you, Caitlin, for joining us today. For any students that are watching, thank you. And please remember, if you are facing challenges or not quite sure where to get support, or if we've mentioned anything on this call that seems familiar, please reach out to us at su.advice@uwtsd.ac.uk, and one of our advisors can get in touch and support you.